Hello, everyone, and good morning. Welcome to our live feed update for March 10th. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and we are here today to update you on everything that happened yesterday on the Big Brother Canada 10 live feeds. With me today is Mari. How you doing, Mari?
I'm doing good, Taryn. I'm glad to be back. It's Big Brother Canada season. I'm officially here for the first live feed update for me. And it was great jumping into these feeds. I did forget how hard it is to watch the Canadian feeds. I was like, oh, right. Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
But once I remembered, I was like, yep. Yeah. Okay. I'm good now. We're good.
Yes. Well, as I said, we are here to update you on everything that happened yesterday. It was day 12 in the house, and it was a day of kind of consolidation. It was a day of like reconnecting and just
hmm
preparing for the upcoming HOH and the fact that there's going to be new power in the house. And so a lot of checking in, trying to figure out where people stand and what the plans are. So it was kind of a quiet day in the sense that there wasn't anything like major going on, but lots and lots of small talks, trying to figure out where the pieces lie. So we're gonna get into it all here today on the update. Of course, Jay and Betty on the block, coming into tonight's eviction. I can tell you right away, nothing has changed. Nothing is
Nope.
changing. Jay is going to be leaving. The talks are going to be more focused again on this upcoming HOH and what might happen there. So, with that in
Yeah.
mind, let's get into it, Mari. We started with Kyle and Hermon. Now,
hmm
big thing that has been happening is that there's this four-person alliance: Marty, Kyle, Gino, and Moose. And Marty and Gino, and to some degree Kyle, want to replace Moose with Hermon in this alliance. So one thing that is needed to happen is that Kyle is needed to check in with Moose, or sorry, with Hermon, because they haven't really talked in a little while, and he wanted to just be like, oh, like feel him out in terms of putting him into this alliance. So they check in, and Kyle mentions, like, oh, we haven't talked in a while. Herman says, yeah, I've been trying not to overplay, trying not to
Yeah.
talk too much. And we still have this notion. Kyle agrees, though. He says, I told Marty today my goal for the day is to just keep my mouth shut, and just be chill for the
Yeah.
day.
Herman did some really good work here in a sense of like just explaining to Kyle his thought process of the alliance because
Hmm.
I see where he's thinking about it. It's almost like how the cookout went about it. Like Herman is like, I am so trusting of you. I trust the seven that I do not want to be up your
Yeah.
all day. Like I don't have to keep checking in on you because I know that Jay is good. And then he reinforces how solid the seven are. Herman Kyle does express his reservations about some members of the seven to Herman. And Herman is like, hey, I promise you, we're all solid. Go and talk. He specifically says Summer and T. He
Hmm.
hasn't really talked to them. Herman said those girls are so super loyal to you. Like really, just go have a conversation with them because they really are chill. And we don't want to congregate so much. And I mean, I like this from Herman, and I think this would be great gameplay if everybody around him wanted to play exactly like this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, for
yeah.
me today, like this day 12 on the feeds, for me solidified, like I feel like her, like if you're asking me again, who's the best player in the house right now, who's doing the best, I think it's probably Herman. I think that
Mhm.
this is good work from Herman. Whether it locks in, like whether it all like fully works, will is yet to be seen. But I think Herman has the right mindset and is in the place where he is making sure that his structure, because this is his structure, he benefits the most from the seven,
That's true.
because he
Mhm.
is kind of in the middle of the two factions within the seven. That if that stays locked in for him, then that's good for him. And he does a very good job with Kyle here in this conversation. I think, though, his biggest flaw right now, apart from Moose,
Yeah.
is the fact that this notion of him trying not to overplay, I think, is
Mhm.
leading to him not talking to people enough and letting them drift from the seven. He needs to be a little more on top of it. He needs to babysit them a little bit more, I think, if he
Yeah.
wants to make sure that it stays locked in. Again, all of the best players they overplay. They babysit their people all the time. They make sure nobody
Mm-hmm.
leaves the fence. Like they make sure it's all locked in. They can't just sit back and let people wander around, because then, you know, then they find themselves lost in the woods, and then there's a random moose jumping around.
Yeah, and right, and that's the real thing here, because I very rarely root for the big alliance to stay together, and I'm not in this case, but I like that Hermon recognizes that it's in his best interest for the group to stay together. But it also kind of sucks because we all know Moose is coming for Hermon, which I still don't know why. Like I still have no
Moose
clue
sees it.
absolutely
Moose
why.
has the eyes. He knows that Hermon is the threat.
Sure. But I still think that he did a good job here convincing Kyle that, what's the point of taking the shot at the people in your alliance, the solid alliance. What's that point? Like, what's the point of taking a shot at Moose? He covered for Moose here, which I was just like,
Yep.
it's annoying, but I see why you're doing this, because you don't know what we know. So like, I get it. But I think you're right. He needs to play a little bit more, but it's really interesting how a lot of these, we'll see throughout the day, a lot of house guests don't want to play too much. And this is one thing I can commend Kyle for, is recognizing that his space in the game has shifted and he has correctly adapted to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kyle said he wanted to come in and ride the middle, but he can't do that. And I love that he's recognized that. And I love that he's recognized that he has to be the big scary boogeyman. Like, he has to puff himself up so much so people are afraid to come after him. And I do like that from Kyle. But I still think that Kyle should not, at least he shouldn't take the shot at his structure that includes him. At least he should be okay with other people taking it, but I don't understand why he would say he would put Moose. You think about putting Moose up,
Yes. So some specifics of this conversation. Hermon talks about how Gino is going to have to let go of, the Jace connection at some point,
Right.
because they're not in the 7. And ideally, Summer and Tanisha would take that shot for them, which is the sort of tip off to Kyle that, like, oh, he's still really thinking about the 7. Hermon also says another good point here. In order for the alliance to succeed, they can't be afraid of winning. So they should all be trying to win. Nobody should be
Yes.
throwing competitions. And I feel like I'm hearing Cody Calafieri talk right now.
Yeah.
So, which is, not a bad thing in terms of game, right?
Mhm.
So Kyle says, if I win, I'd probably put Betty up. We're going to hear a lot of that throughout the day.
Mhm.
But there are some big names that I'd have trouble not putting up. And Hermon's like, nobody from the 7, though, right? And Kyle's like,
Mhm.
I mean, Moose has been saying some stuff. And Hermon's like, nah, Moose is good. But Kyle goes on to explain the whole thing. He's been talking a lot about how there was a comment made about, like, oh, we'll definitely get to the final 9, which is not the final 7. He feels like that means that the shot's going to get taken around then. And he also talks about how he thinks Summer and Tanisha were maybe in on the flip to save Jay, this whole theory that Marty has and that he has. And Hermon says, no. You just need to chat more with Summer and Tanisha. Summer will ride with us. We should not get on Summer's bad side.
Yeah.
And even with Moose, it's a numbers game. You don't have to love everybody. It's a business
Business.
relationship.
Mhm.
Yeah. Kyle keeps pushing, but Hermon keeps pushing back. He thinks they should all get together at some point because they haven't been able to. This is something else that I mentioned the last
Mhm.
few days. And Kyle he retreats and he says, you know what? You're right. And he, at the very least, acts like he's convinced. And we're going to see very soon in his conversation with Gino, he is kind of convinced in this moment,
Mhm.
at least, that, you know what? Maybe you're right. We do have a good thing going. Maybe we shouldn't mess it up.
Yeah, and the funny thing to me too is, like, Kyle also, with the whole Kyle Moose situation. I mean, I'm not making that a big deal because it didn't seem like a big deal to Kyle, but it is kind of funny because Moose, like you said, I think you said yesterday or the day before, Moose does seem to trust Kyle a lot. So it's really interesting. I wonder if, because I don't want to move on too quickly, but Hermon talks to Marty and Hermon says, like, I don't want to constantly be like, this is
Yep.
the plan, this is the plan, this is the plan, because that breeds paranoia. And I was like, Hermon learned from BBCAN 9. You know what I'm saying? Like, in BBCAN 9, the thruple and all of their subsidiaries constantly would go over the plan, flip and flop, flip
They
and flop, flip and
change it
flop.
every day.
and then just end up right back where they started from. So and again, I at least I'm glad that Hermon is verbalizing that to people so that they know what he is thinking, because I agree with him. I don't want us talking ourselves into circles to the point where now we've done lost the plot.
Well, Kyle's gonna go down and talk to Gino and Tanisha, and he's like, "Hey, I just talked to Hermon. Seven's great. We're all doing well." Tanisha agrees. Tanisha leaves. Kyle talks to Gino. He says, "Yeah, I talked to Hermon," and he does say, "Hermon didn't give me much." So he is recognizing that. He's like, "I was trying to get something out," because remember, the point of that conversation was to sort of feel Hermon out about bringing him into the Marty thing, and while I do think that Hermon getting Kyle back on board with the Seven was good for Hermon, it did close that door a little bit to the Marty group. Granted, Hermon still has a great relationship with Marty, and so he doesn't
Okay.
really need to be brought into the Marty group officially at this point. He still has a chance to. But Kyle is like, yeah, he didn't really give me much, but it is true what he said, that if we stick with the Seven, we're sitting pretty good. Gino, though, is less convinced. He hasn't really talked to Hermon at this point. He says, well, they're going to take a shot at Marty eventually, and we want to protect Marty. Marty's not in the Seven. Kyle says, that's true. But if the Seven is as solid as Hermon thinks it is, then, I don't know. Gino says it's still seven people. It's so many. You never know what kind of side things and agendas exist. And Kyle says, I don't know. It's hard to say that, though. It's hard to say like that you have reservations about it because it implies you have ulterior motives. So it's hard to like say that to Hermon. So he says, I've been thinking about, though, like whether Jess is somebody we should go after, like after all, right? Like, do we really want to give them time to gain traction in this game? Like if Jess won HOH, I think I would be good. I think Marty would be good, but I don't know about you, Gino. Remember the conversation that I talked about yesterday between Kyle and Jess, where he was trying to give Jess, like, hey, I think Gino feels good about you. And Jess was like, no, don't talk to Gino about me. They talk about the next HOH competition, hoping that there's some kind of physical element to it, because if there is, then it's donezo.
Yeah. I think I later on Moose is like, maybe we'll just be running back and forth. I'm like, Moose, come on now. Like, maybe it's just running a lot. But yeah, I went back and I wanted to see this conversation between Kyle and Gino, just to see what Kyle took away from the Hermon talk. And again, it, like you said, it might not be sticking like solid stick, but it's a better place than what they were yesterday.
Yeah,
I
like
believe.
in his mind now, he is like, maybe the Seven isn't entirely dead.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
Like it's still an avenue that he could go down.
Exactly.
So that's interesting for sure. Hermon is also going to talk with Marty. Similar conversation. I think Hermon is recognizing now, like, oh, I need to do some work to make sure that people are still locked in. Hermon asks Marty where he stands with Moose. And Marty says, I'm not really sure, like, I don't know about Moose. And Hermon says, for the numbers, we have to trust Moose. And it's like, this is good work, but I think Hermon should also talk to Moose, just to see where Moose stands in all of this. Maybe there's a little bit of validity in this not trusting Moose for Hermon. Yeah. Marty says to Hermon, yeah, you're right. If I win week 4, I'm going to go after Betty. And that's, he has talked about potentially targeting Moose if he wins HOH. And I don't know why he keeps talking about winning HOH 2 weeks from now. But he says Betty would be his target. Hermon says good. For now, he's not targeting Moose.
Yeah. Marty is so like, he's like, okay, I can't play next week, but when I win the week after that, she's gone. And I'm like, okay, Marty, like, okay, all right,
yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Marty asks Hermon, like, what's going on with this Steph thing? Because remember, Marty's not a fan of Steph. And Hermon says, it's just a bit of flirting. It's nothing serious. Marty warns him, like, hey, if you end up becoming a thing, like, you're going to be the target over her. You're going to end up going before she does. And Hermon's like, oh, believe me, I know. I do not plan to be a pair there. There's no duo happening. And Marty asks Hermon about Tanisha and Summer. And Hermon says, oh, I don't think you need to worry about them. I think they would go after Jess. And like, okay.
Yeah. And again, Hermon inadvertently doing good work for other people. not so good on the Moose front, but great on the Summer and Tanisha front, because I
Yeah.
do feel like like Summer and Tanisha were losing the house, and I was so excited to watch the feeds to see why. I could not figure out why. I don't know. I'm still, maybe it's just me.
It's paranoia, I'm telling you. It's the
Yeah.
paranoia.
Yeah. And I'm just like, this isn't fair. I swear I didn't see Tanisha on the feeds for most of the day.
That's part of it too, actually. It's really, again, like Tanisha particularly is not super active enough, like not talking to
Yeah.
people, letting them know where her head's at, and that breeds the paranoia, I think.
Yeah, yeah. It might have been a detriment for both of them and maybe Hermon to be in the big alliance, because they thought they had safety, and they're taking their foot off the gas, as opposed to like the Bettys and the Helenas of the world, who are still trying to gain. Even though I didn't see Haleena a lot yesterday either, but yeah,
Yes, well, Haleena is going to show up a couple times. One is that
yeah,
she's going to talk with Betty,
yes,
reassures Betty about her vote, and kind of checks in with her. Betty wants to know how Haleena feels about the Man Down Alliance, because it kind of feels like they haven't talked in a while, and she's not really sure where like Summer and Tanisha stand anymore. And she wants to really like check back in with them once she survives the vote. She doesn't want to rock any boats. She feels like she's staying right now, so she's not going to go and like be like, "Hey, why aren't you talking to me?" But after she survives, she wants to like reconvene with that alliance. And Haleena
mhm,
agrees. She feels like, "Yeah, I'm not sure where it stands right now, but don't worry, you've got me." Um, and they also talk about how they feel about Jace and Steph, because those conversations have been happening as well. The women all kind of getting together. Helena kind of feels like, I don't feel great about Steph. I
yeah.
caught Steph in a small lie, and I didn't like that. And they both kind of agree that they're not like the biggest Steph fans, but they do both like Jace, and they do think
Mhm.
that they could work with Jace, even though she's close to Gino. They do think that they could get Jace in there.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and it's one reason why, if y'all were hoping for Girls Alliance this summer, I don't see it happening. Only because like certain people and it seems to be Jason, Stephanie that are like the ones that. Well, no, because like Betty and Helena, they like Jace, but then they don't like Steph, and then like Summer and Tanisha, same thing, kind of like Jace, but don't like Steph, but then Jace and Steph like Summer, but they don't like Tanisha. Like, it's really kind of interesting,
Yeah.
like the dynamics of, I can work with that person, but not that person. And they're clearly in duos. I mean, at least Jason Steph, because I listened to so many conversations being had with Steph having with other people, or the two of them, and literally every word out of her mouth. Well, me and Jace think this, me and Jace think that. Like Stephanie, I was just like, I can't with you, girl. Like, I can't.
Hmm.
I'm
It's
sorry.
it's I think again a huge example of just being more active, like putting like trying to make connections. When Jace first approached Betty, it was a disaster, and both of them came away from the conversation feeling like I don't like Jace, I don't like Betty, I don't feel comfortable. But Jace continued to talk to Betty over and over, and then Betty gets nominated, and Jace continues to talk to Betty. And even after Betty's like, "Yeah, I did say that I was voting against you, but don't worry about it. I definitely wouldn't have." She's still like, "That's fine. Let's like keep talking, keep talking." And now they're in a place where Betty is like, "You know what? I kind of like Jace." And Jace is feeling
Mhm.
like, "Hey, I think we can work with Betty." Whereas Steph is like, "Oh, there's a bad vibe there. I don't think I can work with Betty." And vice versa. And there's no attempt to break through that wall. And
Mhm.
so Jace is in a much better position because she was just more, she's pushing more for it, and
Right.
finally made it happen.
It's kind of like, if you're gonna break it down into like Survivor, it's like it's really hard for them to push your name if you're standing like right there. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So always, always be
Um,
in the conversation.
yeah. Jace is gonna talk with Steph and Jay, and they try to clear up where the votes are. Jay says to them, Betty did basically say that she was a vote for me. And Jay also says that they think that Kevin is a bit sketchy, because Kevin told them that he's not a vote for them, even though Betty reamed him out. Like, what is up with that? And
Yeah.
Steph's like, Betty did what? Why am I not in the loop? It's because you don't talk to enough people, Steph.
Stephanie, Stephanie's face, like you could just like kind of see the game. She's like, "What am I missing?"
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, "Girl, what is happening?" I didn't know that Jace and Stephanie were that close. Well, I mean, that close. I mean, he's going home, but I mean, I didn't realize that they had like a named alliance within the three of them and all of that. So that it was really sad. I mean, nothing we know. You said nothing changed, but it was really kind of sad watching Jay kind of try to campaign so late. Like you said, he should have tried earlier, but it
Mhm.
was just like it was just basically a tour of him saying bye to his friends, and I was just like,
They're friends, yeah.
oh, sorry, their friends, their friends. I
Yeah, no
apologize.
worries.
Yeah, like that was really sad. That
Mhm.
was really sad all day.
Yeah, they made a push to campaign sort of like in the first half of the day, and then as more and more people kind of were just like, "Look, Jay, sorry, but no."
Yeah.
They turned it more into a sort of a goodbye sort of tour.
Yeah.
And some of the goodbyes were pretty sad, yeah.
Yeah, a goodbye tour and a like, let me flip up this vent while I looking for power vetoes and secret rooms and stuff. So that was pretty funny as well.
Uh,
Amongst the
uh,
sadness.
So Marty's gonna check in with Moose. And again, it's like all these people who have been worrying about each other all week long but haven't spoken are like now speaking because it's like, well, something's about to happen. This is going to be an HOH.
Mm-hmm.
Marty says, Moose, am I good if you win? Moose is like, of course. You never have to ask me, dude. And Marty's like, oh yeah, we're just keeping our distance. We haven't really spoken in a while, so I just wanted to check in. And we're just trying to pretend like we're not cool. Like I've been telling people, like, yeah, I think Moose is annoying. Yeah, pretty much is what he's been saying. Maybe a little bit more.
Right. Like, oh, that's just pretend, Moose. Yeah. And
Yeah, if
this
you
is
hear
kind of
anything, it's just me pretending. Yeah,
yeah. Well, this is the conversation where Moose was like said something to the effect like he wants to take a big
big
shot. Was this the one?
names.
Big names, yeah. Was
Yeah.
this the one? Was it just me or was he implying Hermon here?
He said straight up, I want to. Part of me wants to take a shot at a big name, and Marty's
Right.
like, "Who's a big name?" And he says,
Hmm.
like Tanisha or Hermon.
Okay, I heard
And
Tanisha then, but
yeah, we know that he's been looking at the two of them, but I like his plans that he's talked about with Kyle and Gino are more Tanisha than Hermon. But Tanisha too weak in Hermon is kind of the implication.
ugh.
But who knows? With
Hmm.
Moose. Marty goes on to explain the whole thing about why he didn't put up Jess or Kevin, and Moose is like, "Oh yeah, Jess tried to make a deal with me too, but I'm not sure if I want to accept it because I might need to put them up, and I don't want to break the deal." So this is kind of important because this is something that he's also talked to Kyle about, and it's part of why Kyle is reconsidering his stance on Jess, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But
Hmm.
it's the fact that this individual game is dangerous because when you make these individual deals or you attempt to make these individual deals, if people start talking about them, it can very easily be exposed. And people who think, oh yeah, I have a great individual relationship with this one person will realize, oh, they're doing that with everyone. I don't know how much
Yeah,
I can trust them. So
very
that is a
dangerous.
concern here.
Hmm. Very dangerous. Yeah.
So Marty's also going to talk to Kevin, and he asks Kevin, "Do you have an idea of who you would go after?" And Kevin, I think, is very good at playing off this question because it's a dangerous question, especially again for this individual kind of game. Because a lot of people are looking at Kevin as their weapon, as somebody that they can use to take a shot at other people, and so they're trying to get an idea of who he would take that shot at. If he names names, he could be in a lot of trouble because it could very easily get out. And so he's very good at just being, oh man, I have no idea. Definitely not you or Kyle, Marty, but and then it immediately like gets Marty talking again, and
Mhm.
he doesn't like it doesn't even register that Kevin didn't answer the
Didn't answer the
question.
question.
And
Yeah.
yeah, great job.
Yeah, he's doing it way better than other people.
Hmm.
Yeah. Other people, the same thing. They don't want to name names, but they're not being as artful in the deflection. So for Kevin, this is great. But I did want to ask you, should he win this HOH?
I mean, that's the thing. A lot of people are looking for him too,
Right.
but that means that he will probably be disappointing some people if he doesn't. But the thing is, I don't think he can afford to throw it. I think that he
Right.
should try to win this thing. Because if somebody like Hermon or Summer or or Tanisha or somebody that's just going to completely reaffirm the seven and take a shot at the outsiders, he could not only be in danger, even because even though he's good with people, they're not going to go out of their way to protect him. And if he finds
Exactly.
himself in hot water, then he's going to be out anyway.
Mhm.
So yes, I think he needs to win, and I think he needs to start, moving pieces around. It would be great for him if somebody like Haleena or Jess or Betty or Josh or like somebody else would win and do it for him. But you can't rely on that, right? So,
Yeah,
you got to go for it.
exactly. Yeah, I just thought I'd ask.
Yeah. Well, Kevin is going to check in with Haleena, and he says to Haleena, I think everyone in this house wants me to win HOH, which is
Mhm.
hilarious.
Mhm.
And Haleena says, "Oh yeah, Josh said to me earlier he wanted me to win HOH." And Kevin says, "I think Josh is the best player in the house." And she's like, he's very smart." Um, they they're not like Josh should be working with these people and I like that he clearly has talked to Haleena and made some kind of attempt, but I think he needs to be
Yeah.
socializing with them more because
J
it would be a nightmare if they won HOH and targeted Josh thinking that they were taking a shot at the power structure.
Josh is like he's giving me Tina flashbacks, and it's scaring
Mm,
me, and I just don't I don't like I don't wanna sit through another season where a very capable player does nothing, and, watching him on the feeds, getting to watch him on the feeds, like, really is the first time really, yesterday was I actually wrote down, I see why people are sketched out by him. Like, to be quite honest, he's one of the people I said when somebody asks you who you're nomming, he just be
yeah.
like, and it's like Josh, like he just asked him like, who are your noms? And Josh was just like, like I don't want to speculate because you never know. And Jess was like, well, you don't have to tell me, I guess. Like, even they got kind of like sketched out from Josh, and they're like pretty close. So like, Josh, you gotta like do better, like do
Mm,
better. But it just kind of goes to show how like Josh and maybe Herman don't feel comfortable saying names because they feel it will come back to them, while other people can freely throw out names and don't feel like they'll get the repercussions for it. I'm just and I think Josh's energy is really sucked down. Like something about his energy is really sucked down. And I don't, and like he said earlier, he doesn't seem to fit in with some of the guys. And I'm wondering if his energy level is so low because he doesn't know if he can hang with with the boys, really. Honestly, it's mostly the boys. So
mhm.
I really hope maybe after if Jay leaves, he can get his head in the game.
Hopefully, we're gonna see a little bit of it today, but
Yeah,
we need more.
right. Bare
Yeah.
minimum. Josh, I need bring it up.
Gino's gonna briefly talk to Summer. They haven't really talked in a little while, but they open up the lines of communication again briefly at first. Gino says, "Look, when the seven breaks up, I'll be honest about it. I'll be upfront about where it's going." So Gino's still very much in the mindset of like the seven is breaking up. Summer says, "Well, I hope that you'll remember the honey bunch and your side things when that happens." And he's like, "Of course, of course."
Yeah,
And so that was very brief. We'll get back to Gino and Summer.
yeah.
Uh, Gino is going to talk to Steph as well. Remember, they have the Retreat Alliance, and so they're talking. Steph kind of wants to figure out where they're going to go. She says that Herman told her and Jace that they should try to go for the HOH, but they think absolutely not. We should, Steph and Jace, what? We shouldn't be going for the HOH. We've already performed far too well in these competitions. We would be putting such a big target on our backs. We should not be winning competitions. Gino, you and Kyle should go for it, but not us. Not us. Uh,
Taryn, Taryn, You would think Stephanie and Jacey were attached at the back the way that Steph talked about her and Jace. And you didn't win anything, Steph. Like, I'm sorry. Like, you did. You close but no cigar. Jace won. And this is infuriating to me. And it's one of the reasons why I cannot listen to Steph talk on the feeds. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I just can't. I can't. Because this conversation itself, again, what good are you to an alliance if you are not trying to win competitions? How good are you? Like, what? And then telling people, oh yeah, no, we're throwing it. You never tell people you're throwing competitions if you're throwing competitions. I think that's what you said, Taran. Am I right?
Yes, absolutely. Like, it's like, not only should you not be throwing competitions, you should definitely not be telling people you're throwing competitions.
Exactly.
Like, it's terrible. We need to stop this notion. Like, look, I get it. Everyone wants to be Dan Giesling and Dr. Will, but very few people are. Like,
Right.
everybody else should be trying to win. Competitions are so important. But I think that what happened is, like, the early Canadian seasons especially had a lot of big fans of the US version and a lot of people who wanted to be Dan Giesling. And so they were like, oh, I'm throwing this competition. And like that was, portrayed to be like this smart sort of like, oh, look at the smart player throwing competitions. And now all these Canadian players, just having watched those seasons, it's like, did any of those players win? No, but you still think it's a smart plan for some reason. Who won the seasons? The people who won the competitions. Except for like Paris, but but that's only because she won at the end.
Yes.
So
Yes.
like, come on.
And I think what the most infuriating thing about it is, like, Stephanie's not doing much, and there's always, people in the chat are saying, oh, when a woman doesn't do much, oh, she's lambasted for it. If a man doesn't do much, then he's whatever. If we're gonna equate that, Josh is kind of not doing anything, right? But the difference between Stephanie and Josh is Josh understands that he's fighting for his position every single week. You know what I'm saying? Like, him and Jess had a conversation about, like, somebody needs to win. He only feels uncomfortable if one person doesn't win. Stephanie is over here with JC counting the weeks. They're over here like, oh yeah, we got like 4 weeks, and then we can let's start winning HOH, like maybe like week 5, 6, and 7, or 6, 7, and 8. Yeah, let's do that. Like, let's win then. Like, that's the difference. It's like, if you are not actively participating in the game, but then expecting to be carried further, I'm going to look down upon you on that, because there are people in this house who are scrounging for another week, or at least playing like they're scrounging for another week. Kyle is in here cutting throats because he's trying to scrounge for another week, and he's in a majority power structure. So that's what's kind of infuriating about watching Steph on the feeds, and then her and JC. I actually really like JC, and I wish Stephanie would go before JC, but I feel like if we have a choice between the two, JC's going, unfortunately. But I think without that anchor that is Steph, Jace could actually do really well in this competition, because she has really good connections with a lot of the other side of the house that Steph just doesn't. Maybe am I reading that correctly, Taran?
No, I think that's right. I think Jace is the more connected player, and for that reason, I think that Jace is probably safer than Steph in general.
I hope
think
so.
Steph is more expendable. But Gino and Steph, they do talk about targeting Betty, and Steph really feels like Betty's the right target. They do mention Jess, and they feel like Jess might put, or Gino specifically says, I think Jess might put me and Hermon up on the block. So Jess is a threat, but Betty is still probably the target, or at least the lock sort of nomination. And it's just a matter of like, who do we put up next to Betty? Jess would probably be an option if they were to win.
Yeah, it seems like Betty and Jess are kind of the in facto nominees for a good majority of the house.
For a lot of the discussion with Kyle and Gino and that kind of whole group sort of thing.
Yeah.
But Jace does feel slightly differently. Jace actually talks to Kyle and says, I actually feel like maybe we can bring Betty in. I feel like a lot of people feel like they don't care about keeping her around, and so she doesn't really have anyone else. Maybe we can use that opportunity to bring her in. Jay's still feeling like she can make that connection. So that's a little bit of a disconnect between Jace and the rest of this retreat alliance for now. And so if she were to win, I think that Betty might be okay, and she might go in a different direction. But we will see.
Yeah.
So again, more campaigning going on throughout the day, but none of it's really going to make too much of an impact. We do see that Jace and Gino are going to hang out a bit more, and they're gonna get showmancy. They felt they were shown up by Hermon and Steph the day before, and they were like, we got to get on this. So they make out a bit, and she immediately runs and tells Haleena about it.
And everybody's like, why would you tell the one person who can't hold water? And I mean, it got around by like 8 o'clock that night, like half the house knew. So yeah, I mean, Showmance's work in BBCAN, they work in Big Brother in general, which is infuriating because Taran, like, what is this weird meta where it's like everybody says, I don't want to get into a showmance. It paints a target on your back. But then when you get into a showmance, everybody's like, oh, we see a showmance, but you know what? It's okay. Like,
it's another one of these just misconceptions. Like, people just repeat these same lines, like, don't overplay, don't win the first HOH, throw competitions, showmances are bad for your game. It's like all of those things are like not true. Like, it's not necessarily, it's in some of them, like you might not say like a showmance is definitely good for your game, but it's definitely not definitely bad. Like a lot of these like common mantras are just, they're just not true. And so many players go into the game with them in mind. Like, that's the sort of thing that like, if I was talking to a player before they went in, I'd be like, just ignore all these weird rules that you think work, because it's not like that. There aren't like hard and fast rules like that don't really exist. There are some things to consider, some things to like you probably should be trying to win competitions most of the time, but not all of the time. And there are some scenarios where you might not want to. But like these a lot of these common ones are just very off the mark. And yeah, showmances are tend to do pretty well. But at the same time, it's still pretty situational. You need to be in power when you're in a showmance, or it will put a target on your back.
Exactly. And then, but and like I said, also it's just kind of like if everybody's thinking, oh, showmance has put a target on the back, but then they get in there and there's a showmance and then they choose not to target them. I still don't understand. I mean, I get it. It's like you said, it's the power structure, but it is really funny to me. And I think it's like you're seeing Gino and Jace, you're seeing Kyle and Kyle basically was like, we gotta puff ourselves up. So you see Kyle and Gino, and it's like you were saying the other day is like, if they have the power, the only way to take it from them is to continue to go after them. But we've seen so many time and time again that people get so scared that they don't, because they have to contend with the other person. So it's just really funny. It's really funny to see how this is going to shake out, because I got to remember this is only week 2. And so I'm here for the speculation. Let's keep going. I'm sorry.
Yes. Well, Haleena and Kevin check in again. They talk about how they talk about how Jay was saying that he thought, or that they thought Kevin was like a villain, the villain of the season. And Haleena was like, oh yeah, Jay was telling me that, that I was acting like all like bubbly and like act like playing dumb or something. And they're kind of like, are we the villains of the season?
Are
Like,
we?
maybe.
Are we?
Yeah. I love the two of them. They do. She says, Haleena says that she doesn't want Moose or Steph winning HOH in particular. She's worried about what those two specifically would do. And that she says something else that she's like, oh, and don't say anything about this, and then they get interrupted. So I'm still not entirely sure where Helena's head is at, but
yeah, I was actually surprised to see how many people on the feeds they all see, maybe this is for a little bit later, but they all see that Kevin is like, everybody has an opinion on Kevin. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're like, is he this dumb? Is he smarter than we think he is? Is he a mastermind? It was very interesting, and it makes me think, like, how long can he sustain this mystery?
Yeah, I don't think too long, to be honest.
Yeah.
You know, I like at some point there needs to be a solid sort of understanding of where, because again, like I think the one of the reasons why these individual players, Kevin, Haleena, and to some extent Jess, have been successful so far is because the big groups have not been communicating. Because
Mm,
you can play these individual games all you want, but the second a big group gets together and shares some information, you're done.
true, true,
And
true.
so, like, if the seven comes together and actually shares information, like Kevin's screwed, Helena's screwed. Like, they're all gonna reveal, oh, I do have a thing with Haleena on the side. Wait, you do too? Because also have one. It's like, so, and it's already kind of like biting Jess because that information is
Mhm.
starting to get shared. So that is a little dangerous. And so what you need is for just you need a solid sort of like identity in the house so that people aren't wondering and asking questions. And I think that Helena's in a better place than Kevin in regard to that. But Jess is in sort of the worst position so far. Um, so
Yeah.
uh, we also saw Steph and Hermon are going to be hanging out a little bit, just chatting, nothing serious, but they did continue their sort of, they're talking, sort of like
Mhm.
how Jason and Gino were talking before.
Yeah.
Um
That camera angle, I was like, "This is this is wild." Like, just rumps to the camera. It's okay, sure.
yeah.
I'm pretty sure there was another angle y'all could have given us for this conversation.
It was a very like they were just laying flat on the beds
Yeah.
like yeah. Um Summer and Jay have like I wouldn't even call it a confrontation, but in terms of like I guess excitement, it was one of the more like fun conversations just because Jay went to campaign to Summer and she was like, "Hey, it would be dumb of me to keep you after you said you were coming for me." And they were like, "Yeah, I mean, what are you gonna do?"
Yeah. I mean, exactly. Like, what are you gonna do? Like,
Yeah.
Jay made his bed and they unfortunately have to lie in it. It sucks. It sucks.
Yeah.
That pantry conversation just didn't set emotion, and then the further conversation with Kyle just yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't great. Marty is going to talk with both Stephanie and Betty, really just trying to cover his bases before the HOH. Hey, Steph, I hope we're good. You know, I didn't put you up. I did say I really wanted to, but I didn't. So,
Mhm.
and hey, Betty, I am doing everything to make sure that you stay. I would be devastated if you left this week. So just because I put you up, hopefully doesn't mean that we're going to be at odds or anything. Uh, and
Then the minute she walks out.
yeah, he's like, she's gotta go.
Yep. That's it. That's Marty covering his bases on Marty. So we'll see.
Yeah. Kyle's gonna talk with Moose. And they talk about Kevin a little bit. Moose thinks Kevin is smarter than he lets on. But
Mhm.
Kyle says, I think it would be great for us if you won HOH though. And Kyle says that he thinks that they need to get some of the women out. And he said Gino in particular has asked like, can we please get Steph out before jury?
Yeah.
So that if he and Jace were to go to jury, that would be without Steph. Um,
Again,
uh,
it's so
yeah.
hard. Like, I like rooting for people, but it's so hard to root for people who are thinking so far down the line because it does come off as like arrogant and stuff like that. But this was
Mm,
a very, very funny conversation. I think this is a very important conversation between Moose and Kyle and later on Gino, to see what they're gonna do, especially since
mhm.
Moose had some very outlandish thoughts here. I'm like reading my notes, like, what?
I mean, that's Moose.
Yeah.
He's outlandish.
Yeah.
He's got the mayhem. That Kyle at this point says, I am becoming more concerned about Jess. I see that they're making deals with a lot of people. I'm wondering, like, because again, like Kyle has kind of a thing with Jess, but if Jess is also trying to make a thing with Moose, and Jess is trying to make a thing with with
Marty.
Marty and with other
Mhm.
people, it's like, how many people does Jess have? Are they pretending to be on an island? And it's funny that he's able to see it with Jess. And Jess is like the most sort of see-through, but he doesn't see it yet with Kevin or with Haleena. But the fact that he's able to see it with Jess means that Kevin and Haleena might need to start to worry a little bit because he might start looking at them as well.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And it which kind of sucks because they have been putting in great work. They have like
Mhm.
really from when they were on the block and about to go home basically to now it feels like they put in really good work, but then it's all undone because Kyle says, if everybody trusts you, then you don't trust no one or whatever that saying is. So it sucks. It does.
Yeah, and I think again part of it is like Jess is the one who like the person who struggles the most with making the personal connection with the deals that they're making. Where like
Mhm.
where Helena's the best at it, and she's able to really make somebody feel like I am secretly your friend, right? I'm your secret friend.
Right.
And Kevin is
Your
kind of
secret
like,
friend.
help me out here, bro. Like I got
Yeah.
nothing. I'm yours. Jess is like, we are a secret alliance, and you cannot talk about me to anybody else. Please stop talking about me to anybody else. Get out of here.
Right.
Get out of here now. People are gonna notice. And it's like it's all business there, and I think that lends toward people talking about it more openly with other people because it's less personal.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a chip in your pocket, it
Mhm.
doesn't feel like a secret advantage to have Jess on your side, unfortunately. But I guess this is another place here because they all come in, they say that they want Kevin to win. Do you believe Kevin? Kevin said it like a few times yesterday, like he could just spin the wheel. He would just spin the wheel for his noms. How iconic would that be? I mean, it could backfire really badly, but
It could.
to basically do a nom roulette, he's trying to pull a Dan. I see right through you, Kevin. You want to do
Yeah.
the Dan with the nom roulette. Cute, but it would be kind of cool. I'm not gonna lie, it'd be kind of cool. But then for us, watch it be like two of the misfits in the on the block, and then he'd have to
Yeah.
like carry it through. Like if it watch it be like Haleena and Betty, and then he's like, I have to like carry it.
Well, again, I mean, I think that this is his way of deflecting the sort of the question.
Yeah.
He's really playing up the like, look, I've got nobody other than you and Marty or Kyle, like or like whoever he's talking to. So like, I have no idea. I could shoot anywhere, which should make people feel like, oh, he's not telling me who he wants to target because of
Hmm.
course he has a target. But what they're actually seeing, they're seeing like money in their eyes. They're like, oh
Hmm.
yes, beautiful. I can point you in a direction.
Yep.
So
I
Kyle
want
does
to
talk to
see it.
Gino after his conversation with Marty, and Kyle is leaning more toward turning on the seven again.
Yeah.
He like after like his conversation with Hermon, kind of like it's like one of those like falling dials. It's like it got pumped up for a second, but then it's falling again. And like anytime Hermon talks to him, I'm sure Hermon will be able to sort of like get him back, like pump the tires a bit more. But the air pressure is just going to constantly be falling because Kyle is already on that path, and he'd rather be too early than too late, which I do think is a good thing. Again, like the seven is not super beneficial to Kyle. It's good to be in it, but if he rode the seven down to the end, and it was the final seven, he'd be kind of locked out. I mean, he has Gino and Moose, which is great, and that's not a bad place to be. But he doesn't have Josh. He doesn't have Summer, Tanisha, or Herman. And
Right.
so, like, Moose is his best weapon at that point, and you don't want to have to rely on Moose in your
Exactly.
structure at seven. So, Kyle does need to create something else, and Marty is really great for that because Marty is so solid. Marty is way more reliable than Moose,
Mhm.
and so I do think it is in Kyle's benefit to destroy the seven a bit earlier than the seven wants him to. But he has to do it in the right way, and he has to be careful about how he goes about it.
Yeah, if
But
anything,
yeah,
if Herman wants the 7 to work, he needs to get into Gino's ear because
yeah,
Gino just mumbles 2 words and it's like Kyle's like, "Okay, yeah, you're right. Forget the 7." And,
yeah.
yeah, that's true. I agree. I agree with that. I think Kyle will need to get rid of the 7. I'm just wondering if week 2 is where you do it. You know what I'm
Oh
saying?
no, I mean,
Week 3 is where
it
you do
yeah,
it.
the shot should not be taken next week, but like for example, you want to continue to take shots at the other side's power base, like, and
Exactly.
like he's doing, like with take out Betty, take
Mhm.
out some other player. Make sure you keep around JC and Steph and Marty. All of your side pieces stick around, and then you'll
Right.
have the numbers to force something in a few weeks.
Even though I wanna point out, he's like, he thinks he's taking away Betty because he thinks that Summer and Tanisha and Betty are tight, and it's like, Betty said it herself, they barely talk, and that's kind of
Yeah.
annoying, but
Yeah,
yeah,
but I mean that's sort of the thing is like right now Summer and Tanisha don't really have many other side pieces. So it's like
exactly.
who
They
do you
just
even
have the
take the
7.
shot at that
Yeah,
point?
mhm, yeah,
So it might as well be Betty, just like take out one of these these pieces that's not with you, right? Like Betty is definitely
right.
anti Kyle and the Bros, so you might as well.
Betty for
Inadvertently
HOH.
Betty is a piece for Summer and Tanisha even if they don't see it yet,
They
right?
don't know it. Yeah, exactly.
So Gino does let Kyle know about the Jace situation, and they talk about that for a little bit. Gino is also going to talk to Summer about it, and we're finally getting more of the Gino Summer relationship that has kind of been on the down low of the last few days. Haven't really been talking too much. He tells Summer like, hey, it's not too serious, nothing big, and
Mhm.
she's kind of poking fun at him, and he's like, what are you jealous? What's
Yeah.
going on here? And like really like the day that should have put an end to all of the Summer Gino shippers, this really breathed some hope into their
It
sails, I think.
inflamed it. They were blowing on it like it was a tinder on Survivor.
Yeah.
Uh, Summer did a little flirty, like, maybe I need to be more for it. It was like a lot of double
Mhm.
talk. And I'm like, what are we doing here? Because I don't believe it, but y'all are trying to make me believe it, and I don't believe it, and don't get my hopes up. So no, stop it.
Yeah.
Bad.
Yeah.
Go back to your corners.
Kyle does talk to Josh. And with all this talk about the seven sticking together, he does have a conversation with Josh. He says, "Look, I'm locked in with the seven. I know we haven't talked much, but I
Mhm.
hope you know I'm still in it." And Josh says, "Yes, I know I've been kind of like not talking too much and keeping my distance, but I have my reasons for that, but I'm locked in. I'm in the seven. I'm good. You don't need to worry about me." And
Mhm.
that's good. That's a great start. I would love to see Josh follow up on this and like
Yeah.
confirm with his actions that he means what he's saying here, because I don't think it's too late. But we'll see where that goes.
Yeah. And I do have a question for you. We kind of talked about it a little bit, but like Josh says that he thinks there's one person in the house he'd be afraid of winning HOH. Do you know who that is? I'm like looking at the board.
I think he might mean Tanisha, just
Oh,
because
right,
he's
right.
got that issue with her, but he might
I'm
not want to
still
say it
confused
because
about
that would
that.
imply that the seven is not as locked in with him as he's trying to imply.
Right. I keep
Um,
forgetting that there's supposed to be something but going on between them.
yeah,
I haven't seen it.
yeah, we'll see. Tanisha does talk with Betty a little bit, and they talk about Kevin, and Tanisha says that something's got to be done about Kevin eventually, soon, probably. So if Tanisha wins, she might go after Kevin.
Okay. That makes sense. Kevin and what, maybe Jess, right?
Yeah, something like that. I think would
Yeah.
definitely be because they're still on the like, the obvious outsiders. We're in the seven. We're all good. Nothing to worry about. So
Yeah.
now, Hermon again, he's sort of recognized with the talk with Kyle that the seven has kind of been drifting apart. They haven't had any meetings, and so Hermon's going to gather up the troops and pull six of the seven into the phone room. Tanisha, I think, is busy talking to Betty at this point,
Mhm.
and so they all get together in the phone room. It's the Savage Seven, except there's only six of them in the room, and so the fact that there's a number in the name makes it even harder to talk about the fact that the seven got together, but they weren't all seven there. But they're all in there. Hermon's like, "Are we all
Yeah.
locked in?" They say yes. Hermon says, like, "I know that there's been some stuff going around, all coming from Jay. Let's not worry about that. The seven is the priority. That's where we are." And they're all in lockstep together here,
Yeah.
saying, "Yes, we're together."
Mm, it was definitely just alliance upkeep is like
Yeah,
your weekly
like
maintenance on your alliance.
it was good, and I think it's good that they got together and they did some basically they did some affirmations in the phone room.
Affirmations. Yeah.
Um, but I do think that you need a little bit more than just hey, we're together, yay, let's move.
Yay.
Like
Let's signature
an
the
actual
elbow
group,
alliance.
yeah, an actual group conversation I think would be great for them to sort of iron out some differences.
Yeah.
We've seen that happen in the past. The problem is that it's a little bit tougher to do something like that in the Big Brother Canada house. I've actually been thinking about this, like how the actual sort of architecture of the Big Brother Canada house influences the direction of the game compared to the US
Ooh.
house. And I think
Okay.
there's something there. I really do, because just the layout. There's the Big Brother Canada house has a lot more little private spots for
Mhm.
for game talk with small groups of people. But it doesn't have the HOH room that's so separate that that allows people to be completely separate. Like big groups come together and talk. We very rarely see big groups come together and have group conversations in Big Brother
Okay.
Canada versus the US. And at the same time, we see a lot more of these smaller individual deals happening. And I think that's in part because you have all these small little places where groups can meet up and have quick little chats, in the in the Expedia room, or in the
Yeah.
in
The
whatever
storage
room.
room.
Yeah,
Lots of closed doors in BBCAN,
exactly,
basically. Yeah.
exactly. But not closed, not far enough apart that that they can
Mm.
get big groups, because people can walk in all the time. So you have to be kind of
Yeah.
quick and small. And so
Hmm.
I think there's something there, that the literal physical geography of their space influences the direction of the game.
Very interesting. Now that's something else I gotta keep an eye out on.
All right. Well, anything else from yesterday that you want to bring up, Mari?
No, it was a really interesting day. It was a lot of just surface level. We got, you got it. It was a lot of that.
Yeah.
But I think it definitely helped with at least resetting the board going into the HOH. Now it won't matter until whoever gets in power, especially if it's somebody like Moose. But I appreciated people, better late than never, I guess. Just doing a little
Man,
bit of upkeep.
if Moose wins HOH and puts up Summer and Tanisha, or Tanisha and Hermon, that would blow up the house. And so I, on one level, I don't want Hermon to be taken a shot to be taken at Hermon. And
Yeah,
I like Tanisha, but she's not giving me a lot in the game, so I
she's
wouldn't
not doing
super
much.
mind if she was targeted. So if he targeted Tanisha and it blew up the whole house, I feel like that would be that would be a decent outcome. I think Betty winning and putting up Kyle and Gino would be also pretty wild. There are a couple of good options, I
Yeah,
think, for the
I
HOH
think
tonight.
Jess too, right? Jess said they would put up or insinuated that they might put up
Jess,
Kyle and Gino.
yeah, I mean, we'll see where Jess goes, right?
Mhm,
Jess is gonna sort of tell people, I think, what they want to hear, and then figure out what's
mhm,
best for their game. And I think there are a lot of different options of what Jess could do. I think a Jess HOH would probably be pretty good as well. So
mhm. And
we'll see.
for Hermon, do you think okay, maybe there's a little bit of gossip here, but now it's kind of seeming like Moose it might be targeting Hermon if because Hermon kind of stepped in front of him with the
That
Steph
is
train.
that might you might be onto
I'm
something there.
just saying.
Maybe that's where it came from. Maybe Moose sort of
Mhm.
saw that Herman was, even before the makeout session, maybe
Mhm.
stepping in a little bit, because you did get the sense that that Moose was maybe at least a little bit
Into
into the
stuff.
Steph thing at first.
Mhm. See, look,
That
men can
yeah,
be catty and jealous too.
that could be something. Yeah. We'll maybe keep an eye on that.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's what we have for you this morning. Thank you so much for joining us here. Of course, later tonight, we will have our eviction, where we will very likely see Jay leave the house. And then we'll have a new HOH at some point later tonight, and that should be exciting, hopefully. I will be live on Twitch at some point today as well to do the Stock Watch stream. If you have not joined the Stock Watch, you can go to realitystockwatch.com and make your decisions before the eviction starts tonight. I will be streaming about it, running through the options and sort of talking through what could happen. If you want to go through that with me, I will also be live during the episode to watch with all of you. So make sure you come and hang out with me there. I also did an episode recap with Grace last night. It was not live, so you did not miss it. Don't worry, it's there. It was a quicker one. It was like a half hour kind of quick little recap with Grace. I thought it was very fun. We did a lot of slithering.
I'm actually just going to slither through.
I also did a stock watch for Survivor last night with Grace as well, and that was also a lot of fun. So the Survivor premiere was very, very good. So check that out. Both of them are up on YouTube if you want to watch them, or in the respective podcast feeds if you want to listen to them there. And check out the Taran Show with Kevin Martin. This is probably out by now. It should be. So that was a lot of fun. Make sure you check out the Kevin Martin Taran Show. And check out the Raised by Wolves podcast that I do with Grace and Josh. Mari, what are you up to?
Well, if you love your Grace content, we had Grace on the Wrestling RHAPup last week, so that's up. So you can see me and Matt Scott talk about the wonderful, weird, wild world of wrestling every week. Just subscribe to the Wrestling RHAPup. Also, it just dropped today. The announcement just dropped today that me, LaTanya, and Chappelle will be back on post-show recaps, this time talking about Atlanta, season 3 of Atlanta. Ooh. So, yeah. So we recorded just a little like a little 30-minute kickoff where we just explain like why we chose Atlanta, talk about the characters a little bit. And then next week we'll be dropping a season 1 and season 2 recap going into the season 3 premiere, which I think is on the 24th of March. So if you're a fan of Atlanta, yes, go check us out on post-show recaps. If you want to jump into the world, it was a really interesting world and weird and surreal world of Atlanta. You can watch along with us. So I'm excited about that. We're so excited to be back on post-show recaps.
Awesome. Atlanta's a great show. So people should check that out. All right. Thank you all so much for joining us here today. And I will see all of you next time.